I got my associate's degree. And he said, now you need to get in the law library. He said, because when your direct appeal is denied, you are now the attorney. I'm 22 years old.
Wow.
I've never seen a law book in my life outside of Perry Mason and watching it with my mama.
That was my mom's favorite show.
Oh,
too.
man, you go to my mom's house right now, he's still doing trials.
Welcome to the Bonafide Leaders Podcast, a podcast about leaders for leaders, one that exists to inspire legitimate and authentic leadership in the workplace and beyond. And I'm your host, Tim G. Williams, ICF Certified Executive Coach and Consultant. Now, regardless of where you are in your leadership journey, aspiring, emerging, established, or retired, this is for you. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the Bonafide Leaders Podcast experience. All right, I'd like to welcome you into another edition of the Bonafide Leaders Podcast. I am your host, Tim G. Williams, and with me today is a man by the name of Richard, who I'm going to introduce to all of you all here shortly. I'll tell you a story about Richard. At the age of 19, Richard Miles was wrongly arrested and sentenced to 60 years for murder and aggravated assault. In 2007, an innocence organization accepted his case, and he was released in October of 2009. In February 2012, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals unanimously ruled and granted Richard actual innocence, which is very important. That same year, Richard made an initial seed investment to start Miles of Freedom, an organization providing holistic support for individuals, families, and communities impacted by incarceration. Now, today, Richard serves as the CEO, the president, and is the founder of Miles of Freedom. And he's an advisory board member, active in a few different churches. I'll let him talk about which churches those are. And he's also a board member of Centurion. He's married to LaToya and is the proud father of two daughters, Raylan and Aubrey. Richard, welcome into the Bonafide Leaders Podcast.
Thank you. I'm super excited. Thank you for this opportunity, Tim. Thank you.
It's my honor. I have to tell a story. I may have mentioned it to you by phone when we spoke the first time, but I got exposed to you through the Dallas Regional Chamber.
Okay.
And we were just talking that you've been engaged with them since
Yes.
2010.
Yeah, Leadership Dallas in that project since 2010.
Yeah.
A book came out, and that was like our first speaking circuit. And I think ever since then, every year, that's how I know the year changes. It's when they reach out and say, hey, we have another class. And so, yes, awesome group.
Yes. So I'm still connected with that group as well, and we'll actually see each other in a few weeks.
Yes.
And I was in class one day after I had presented to the group, and I just had the opportunity to kind of hear your story for the first time for myself in person. Mm-hmm. And, of course, I was moved by your story, and particularly because what I didn't tell you about in the pre-work that we did for this conversation is that the last 2 years when I was working at Texas Instruments, I did public policy work around public safety and police reform and this kind of thing.
Right.
And so hearing you speak on a topic that I had become more and more familiar with, which is really exciting.
Yes.
And then fast forward, this is like 6 months, random. I'm just talking with somebody who's a part of Leadership Dallas. You're like, hey, you know who you need to have on your podcast? I said, who? Who's that?
Right.
They said, Richard, the guy who spoke to us a few months ago. I'm like,
right.
Oh, Richard, you think he'd be? Oh, yeah, you would love talking to him. He's a great guy, has a great organization. I said, you know what? I think you might be right. So anyway, I thought about that for a while.
Yes.
Want to give a shout out to Crystal.
Okay.
And then secondly to Tasha down at the chamber who made that actual connection.
Awesome.
To get us talking to one another. So again, I'm just happy for you to be here.
Well, I'm excited, and I did some research and listened to the interview with you and Dr. Sorrell. I'm like, okay, this is the seat that I need to be in. This is really exciting, and just always, I'm appreciative to create spaces of empathy.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I just pray that after we finish talking and people listen to this, they're able to empathize and encouraged to continue the work that they do in whatever field or space they're in.
That's wonderful. All right, so let's maybe start present day before we go into the discussion we'll have. Today, you're married to LaToya.
Yes.
You got 2 children, and just this morning, in fact, you did a
career day.
Talk about that. So what's family life like? What was it like being at your daughter's school? What are you up to these days?
So my daughter, they go to Redeemer Montessori, and they're in the process of doing career day. And so a couple of weeks ago, they had this dentist come in, and he's talking about teeth and all of that great stuff, very professional. And so I get a call from the teacher and say, hey, we would love for you to come in and talk about what you do. And I think for the first time, it really showed me, man, you're really doing something that people are interested in, not only in the professional space, but in the educational space. And as we talk more today, people understand how I never thought I would be doing a career day, especially in a class where my daughter is in. 11 years old, I never thought that I would be standing in front of a group of young people talking about the work that I do. And so I'm always blessed to kind of see these moments in my life where things make sense,
Yeah.
And it made sense this morning. And so, I've been married. I met my wife a couple of months after my exoneration. And I tell people I met her at a great time, because going into prison at 19, coming out at 34, I had no knowledge of taxes, insurance, all of this stuff that people deal with on a daily basis. Coming out of prison, you're thrusted into that. And as men, it's hard for us to say, I don't know how. It's hard for us to embrace our handicaps. And so meeting my wife, I mean, she was like an internal crutch that I leaned on.
In a good way.
In a good way, because she offset what I didn't know. And so sometimes when you meet that person, you know, well, man, let me go ahead and make this. And so we got married, and life has just really been one building block on top of the next. And so for the past 13 years, we've been growing as a union. Raylan is my oldest daughter, and Aubrey is my youngest daughter. And so I'm very active in church. I'm very active from a spiritual perspective as well. My stepfather started God's Holy Church of Christ, which is a church now that my mom is the facilitating senior pastor, and I still help out at the church. And I currently go to Oak Gardens, which is in Oak Cliff off of Keast. So that's pretty much what I do, man. That's my life. Like, it's kind of boring, but it's...
No. I don't know any life that's boring.
Touche.
Yeah, there's no life that's boring. All right, well, let's go back a little bit.
Yes.
So, born and raised in Dallas.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about your upbringing, what it was like being a kid, kind of growing up here in Dallas.
So I'm born and raised in Dallas, Oak Cliff to be exact. Grew up in the Glendale Park area. Interestingly, so my real father, which is Richard Miles, I don't know a lot about him. What I do know is at a very early age, around about 5, my mom and my dad, Richard, split up, and she eventually met a gentleman by the name of William Lloyd. And William Lloyd would grow up to be the father as I pretty much knew it. We didn't use stepfather in the house. It was, this is my father. We grew up in a very spiritually guided household. Not so much as religious, because we fellowship with a lot of churches. I mean, we would go from a Pentecostal to a Baptist to a holiness. If you preached and used the scriptures, then we was there somewhere in the congregation. I jokingly say that we went to church about 50 days out the week. My dad was serious with that church, but it was our spiritual walk, it was our education, and it was family. Those are 3 things that was really central in me growing up. And so growing up in Oak Cliff, went to Lisbon, eventually went to Longfellow Academy in North Dallas, and super excited when I got accepted into Skyline High School. And living in Oak Cliff but going to Skyline, it was all about your grades because it was a talented and gifted. And so if you had to make A's or B's because you're staying outside of Pleasant Grove. I'm catching a bus to go to Skyline.
Okay.
So I was strictly there for the vocational pathways. Man, I got to Skyline, and it was the biggest school that I'd ever been in. And I'm looking around, and when I started taking the vocational classes, I fell in love with plastics technology. So I took a lot of cluster classes, cinematography, photography, aviation. But when I got to plastics technology, and this was way before plastics was really out as much as it is now, it was just something about learning about thermosets and thermoplastics and injection molding and all of that type of stuff. It interested me. So I graduated from this cluster class, and my eyesight was set for TSTC in Waco, because that was kind of like the next level up for those individuals at Skyline that wanted to take a deeper dive in engineering plastics. So I remember, man, what was this, 88? No, this was 92.
Okay.
91, 92. My mom and dad, family, we jump up in the Astro van. And we had to wake up. Yeah, the Astro van. No Dayton's, it was just straight hubcaps. But we got in it anyway. And we headed down the freeway to TSTC, and I met the instructor over the plastics class, took my little entrance test, and the gentleman was excited because I passed the class. One of the things growing up, I learned that in order to get out of church, I had to get a job. That was if I was at the house, we were gonna go to church.
Right.
So I got a job at McDonald's, and I actually worked for, and I met him again yesterday, a couple of days ago, Mr. Roland Parrish.
Oh yeah.
Mr. Parrish was very instrumental because I worked at the McDonald's on Ledbetter, and I remember him coming in every day, and he would speak, and he would give you dap with his elbow. And just to see this man who looked like me, and he's the manager of this McDonald's, it was just very encouraging. But I had to get a job in order to not go to school. And so by the time I graduated...
Not go to church or not go to school?
I mean, excuse me. Yeah. I had to get a job to not go to church.
Yeah.
But once I graduated, I told my mom and dad, I'll never forget, I said, man, I've graduated. Because to me, and I think a lot of young people, we look at graduating from high school as just a check-the-box moment. And for me, that's what I did mentally. I checked this box that was instilled in me as a child. I had a job, and I was ready to move out. And my mom and dad reluctantly were like, we know you're going to college, but you don't really have a plan. I said, man, I'm moving in with the manager. Everything is going to be all right. And I remember, man, they was looking at me and said, we're not going to hold you back. But if that's what you want to do, you know what I'm saying, you do it. And so at the age of 18, finishing high school, had my job, and I packed my bags up and moved out. And so my life began to totally shift and change because I understand now, I left the protecting coverings, not only physically, but spiritually as well. And it made me, allowed me to be susceptible to things that I had no knowledge of, which would change the trajectory of my life.
Wow. All right, so you grow up here in Dallas, Skyline, a famous high school here in Dallas. For those not familiar with Dallas, Skyline's a very, very famous high school.
Yes.
Doing well, love this plastic stuff, get a job.
Yes, had to. Yes.
But then you kind of begin to step outside of sort of that protective covering, that spiritual covering, that emotional covering, that family support environment.
Right.
Okay, so at what moment, what was happening maybe in the weeks leading up to the seminal moment of, wow, arrest?
Yeah.
And things go from there.
Yeah.
What was happening right before that?
So I'm still working. I eventually moved to North Dallas over there by Love Field Airport. This was the first time that I got an opportunity to get a girlfriend. Because staying at home, we couldn't do that. We couldn't do nothing. My dad wasn't having that. Seriously. He wasn't having it. And so I moved out, and so I get my first girlfriend, and she stayed in Robin Oaks Apartments, right? And so I'm doing the little dating thing, and that's pretty much life, what it was.
Yeah, you got your job,
Got
your
my
girl.
job, 19.
Yeah.
And so one morning I didn't have a car, and so the guy that I was staying with, I asked him, I said, hey man, tomorrow, which it will be May 15th, so it's like the 14th,
Okay.
we're sitting at the house. I said, man, tomorrow, can you drive me to Oak Cliff? I want to be able to kick it with my girlfriend in Robin Oaks. And so he was like, man, I can take you, but I have to work that night. So
Yeah.
I won't be able to come back and pick you up.
Right.
I said, man, it's the apartment. Somebody going to be able to bring me back. So we got up the next morning, and he agreed. We drove from North Dallas to Oak Cliff, and then I got to my girlfriend's apartment. She stayed in the front of Robin Oaks, and pretty much all day that day, I had a friend in the back. His name was Bo. We'll talk a little bit about Bo later on, but stayed with Betty and her mom and family pretty much all that day. And it started getting late. It was about 12 o'clock, and I remember because the Flavor videos used to come on, Flavor TV. I say, I'm taking you back. You know?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Shout out to Flavor TV.
Like, shout out to Flavor TV. For those that couldn't listen to music on the radio like me, we could catch it at night. But no, so we're watching Flavor TV, and I remember because Flavor TV had just went off and the buses had stopped running. And I was over my friend Bo's house. And I'm like, Bo, man, I got to get back home. My friend not going to be able to come back and get me. Can you take me to the house? And he asked me where I stayed. I said, man, I stay on the corner of Crest Haven and Bluffview, which is right around the corner from the Sewell Cadillac shops.
Yeah.
Bluffview connects Lovers Lane and Lemon Avenue. It's a small street right there. Ironically, Bo had a girlfriend that stayed on the corner of University and Roper.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
if you know anything about North Dallas, so we're in Oak Cliff. We leave from Oak Cliff, Robin Oaks apartment, which is on Ledbetter. We head to North Dallas. When we got to North Dallas, we were coming down Lemon Avenue, and we would get to University and Roper first. When we got to University and Roper first, I said, man, you don't have to drive me past your girlfriend's house because she stays right there on the corner. I said, man, I can walk the rest of the way home. He said, you sure? I said, yeah. I said, man, I'm finna walk straight up University beside the Sewell Cadillac shops. I'm gonna make a right down Lemon Avenue, walking in front of the GMC shops and all of that. Bluffview is that street right there. I'm going to make a right down Bluffview. I got to stop at the Red Coleman on the corner of Lovers Lane and Bluffview because this was way before cell phones.
Right.
So I used something called a quarter and the cell phone. I said, because I got to call my friend to tell him to unlock the door because I didn't have a key to the house and I didn't have the alarm code. So it's like, man, you sure? I said, yes. So I gave him $5 because he charged me $5. Got out the car, man. It was, like I say, it was May 15th, 1994. The weather was pretty good, so I had on a little muscle shirt with some Dickies, and I had on a black Dobb hat, and I'm walking up the street. Remember the routes that I just said earlier. Got to the Red Coleman. When I got to the Red Coleman, called my friend. I said, hey, man, I'm right here at the corner. Can you unlock the door and cut the alarm off? My friend answers the phone. He said, all right. He hangs up the phone. I hang up the phone, and I'm getting ready to cross the street. But I noticed a police car that had just been sitting idle on Bluffview facing Lovers Lane. And even though the light was registering green for the police car to drive,
He wasn't moving.
It didn't move. So I didn't really pay any attention to it when the light registered for me to walk across the street and walk back towards Crest Haven, which is that first and only street right there. I walked beside the police car, and it seemed like the minute I walked past the car, I heard a helicopter. So just like your eyes went up, I'm like, not doing anything, not knowing anything. I said, man, something is going on. Let me go ahead and get to the house. I didn't take out running or anything like that, just steady walking. And it seemed like instantaneously, police cars and sirens, I heard them, lights is everywhere, and I'm hearing these commands, get on the ground, lay on the ground. So I'm 19 at the point in time. I'm laying on the ground. They come up, they're patting me down. They put the handcuffs on me, put me in the police car. And when they put me in the police car, I'm asking the guy, I said, man, what's going on? And nobody is really saying anything. And I said, well, man, my friend just dropped me off. I stayed right here. I was literally in my front yard, because it's not too far from the Red Coleman to Cresthaven, literally right across the street. I said, man, my friend just dropped me off. We can go over there and ask him. And I remember the officer telling me, he said, well, when you get downtown, everything that you're telling us, you just tell the detective and everything will be all right.
So in that moment, when he basically assures you that all you have to do is repeat your story
Yes.
downtown, you're feeling what?
I accepted that. I sat back in the car, handcuffs on. I said, well, just wait to get downtown. Remembering one of my father's things where they always say, the truth shall set you free. And so that was the rock on which I stood in the back of the police car.
When you see the helicopters here and then you hear everybody saying, get down, get down, get down, that had to be a scary moment.
Frightening, yeah.
Yeah.
Frightening.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the worst moments anybody can have. Okay, so now I'm just going to fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, somebody doesn't believe your story.
Yes, yes.
And I'm going to take us to that moment, maybe, man, I mean, in between the time that you were arrested and the time that you're actually sentenced.
Yeah.
What was that period like? Because a lot of people don't understand kind of the pre-trial period and what that looks like and how you're away from everything that you know. People think, oh, you get arrested, go back home, life is good, get out on bail. But what was that experience like?
So the first thing I'll say is I never was released from custody from the point that the handcuffs was placed on me. From May 15th, 1994, all the way to October 12th, 2009, I was in the custody of the state of Texas in some form. The first 18 months, 17 months, I was in the county jail. And that is this pretrial phase. And it was very interesting. And I still don't understand how now the mind automatically clicks from freedom to incarceration. Because here I am, 19 years old, smelling fresh air, just finished talking to my girlfriend, and now in a matter of seconds, all of that is just a thought. And the opportunity to process that, you can't do that in a moment in time. I was introduced to my court-appointed attorney during that 18 months, and my court-appointed attorney was encouraged by my story because it's like 10 people seen this shooting. 9 of them said I wasn't the shooter.
Oh, wow.
One guy survived. He testified that I didn't look like the shooter. No gun was ever found. All of my alibis. They had one guy that said I was the shooter, and my attorney said the prosecutor won't let me talk to him to understand his testimony. They conducted a gunshot residue test on my hands, which it was an old test that they used. They used a test called the atomic absorption, which had got banned in like 1970 because it distorts the outcome of the results. They were supposed to have been using a test, it's a spectroscopy test, a spectrum. So more so it keeps the particles intact. So my attorney couldn't understand how the palm of my right hand tested positive for some substance, but negative anywhere else. But the interesting thing about being in the county jail was listening to the other individuals that was incarcerated with me, because they was telling me, brother, it doesn't matter if you're innocent or guilty, don't go to jury trial. Because if you go to jury trial, they're going to find you guilty. He said you need to cop out for something. And what struck me was we have people that are scared to use the systems in place that are supposed to produce justice. So what kind of society do we have when the elements that produce justice are not trusted by the people that need justice, innocent or guilty. And so that time frame in the county jail was interesting because it didn't only prep me for the work that I do now, but it prepped me for the mindset of individuals that are in prison.
So that's what I want to talk about, because I'm just imagining, and maybe the listeners imagining, I'm in a squad car, helicopters out here. I'm just trying to get home. Whatever the circumstance, I didn't do this. I've explained this to people. And then I'm being told by the guys on the inside, hey, make sure you don't go to a jury trial.
Right.
What in my mind, I think I would be feeling lonely, misunderstood, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. What were those experiences like for you in that period of time?
I felt every emotion under the book. One of the first things was my court-appointed attorney. So we didn't have finances to afford a free world attorney. My father, being a disabled veteran, he really believed that the court-appointed system truly worked as free world attorneys.
Right.
And my father was like, man, you tell him the story, you tell him the truth, and everything is going to be all right. So we were all living life from an optimistic perspective.
Okay.
Because I'm innocent.
Yeah.
It's no way for me to be found guilty if I'm innocent.
Right.
Bottom line. And so when we were getting ready to go to trial and talking to these people in here, the other men locked up, I got very fearful. Not because I wasn't innocent, but because of this system that they were fearful of. And I talked to my mom and my dad, and I was like, man, I think we need a free world attorney. And so when we couldn't do that, immediately I'm like, man, my mom and dad are not really trying to help me. Because it's like, you're supposed to, mom always said, you're going to get yourself in something that we can't be able to, we can't get you out of. I'm like, no, what can possibly happen that mom and dad are not going to be nothing? As a kid, nothing can happen.
Yeah.
But here I am, and we didn't have the money. And they couldn't put the house up. And so I'm like, why? So this immediate space of being by myself hit me when the resources from my family then wasn't enough to get me out. And then I go from talking to my attorney, who seemed like he believed in me, but he asked me for $2,000 because he didn't have enough money to do adequate investigations. And so now I'm learning that this is like the David and Goliath story, where the court-appointed system doesn't have the adequate resources as the state. But he was still encouraged. And I think the biggest thing, the hardest thing about from point A of getting arrested to the trial was me maintaining my innocence. Going through the trial, it was an 8-hour deliberation. And when I came back out, the jurors, when they read the verdict, I remember they said, we the members find the defendant Richard Ray Miles Jr. guilty of murder. And I remember sitting down. I didn't know what the punishment was going to be, but I remember everything just is like the lights cut off.
Yeah.
And my attorney, he's standing up because we're all standing up, and he begins to kind of nudge me, and he kind of snaps me back to reality. And he said, man, you have to stand up. You're in front of the judge. You have to give reverence. And while I'm physically stood up, I'm mentally saying, how can you respect an entity that doesn't respect your innocence? However, growing up, understanding that we have to respect authority in whatever position that we're in. So I stood up respecting the authority that was in place. And I remember signing my name, because you have to sign your name accepting this verdict.
Right.
But that's the only way you can get your appeal too. And so here I am signing my life away for a crime that I didn't commit. And inside of me, I remember vividly, on the right side, you could hear the victims' families breathe sighs of relief because they felt justice had been served.
Yes.
But behind me, my family, you could hear the pain of anguish.
Yes.
Because they knew justice hadn't been served.
Yeah. Bonafide Leaders works with senior executives, established leaders, and emerging leaders. We exist to help you, your business, and your teams thrive, specializing in executive coaching, leadership development, organizational consulting, and keynote speaking, providing the absolute highest level of quality and service. We partner with our clients to help them elevate their leadership effectiveness, navigate organizational change, culture, and leadership transitions, leading to bottom-line results. If these are the problems you're seeking to solve, reach out to me at bonafideleaders.com/contact, and let's explore together. So Richard, I so appreciate you taking this time to be vulnerable with me, with our audience, because, I'm asking you to relive a very painful experience, one that I cannot imagine. I am curious because things started optimistically. Mm-hmm. Then hearing the guys, it's like, maybe it's not going to work out so good. And then clearly you get the news. That's not good news.
Right.
Now you're in the phase where you're incarcerated.
Yes.
And at what point did you begin to regain any hope at all?
Yeah.
Had you lost it all? Had you still kept on to a little bit?
Yeah.
What was that? When did that happen?
So I lost all hope at the age of 30. I had been locked up 11 years by that time. And I can get to that point later on, but it's something about when you turn 30, you take this back down memory lane, and I'm 11 years incarcerated as an innocent person. My rearview mirror was very distorted. And so I didn't like to look back on where I was at. Some of the things that really encouraged me going in, obviously my family and I were still leaning on the system. The trial ended in a guilty verdict, and I was given a total of 60 years in prison, 40 years for murder, 20 years for, it was attempted murder, but they dropped it down to the aggravated assault later on down. 60 years, now I'm headed to prison. The only thing I knew about prison was Shawshank Redemption.
That movie had just come out not too earlier than that, too.
Right. So
Morgan Freeman, for those who don't know.
Right. You know, Andy and I, so I'm like, that's the closest I got to prison, And so jail, what I immediately learned, that jail was nothing like prison. Totally different. Different mindsets, different actions, and now I'm entering the prison system at the age of 21. And you go through the diagnostics area, and one of the first things that happened to me when I went to Gurney Unit, which was a diagnostics, and this is where they kind of assessed you. They give you these tests. And, man, they threw me in Aggie, which is a garden hoe, and sent me straight to the fields. And so for the first 4 or 5 years, I'm working in the fields. Richard Ray Miles Jr. did not exist. It was 72, 87, 16, and I was a commodity to be used by the state in whatever manner in which I needed to be used. And so working in this agricultural space, getting up early in the morning, so much like Shawshank Redemption, when Andy came out of that jail cell, nobody gave him a rule book to prison.
Right.
You do what everybody else is doing,
right,
and until you understand. And so for the first, 5 years, I tell people I went through 5 stages: fear, anger, depression, evolution. Fear, anger, depression, evolution. The fear is what? Absence of knowledge. I didn't know anything about prison. I didn't know how to do time. About 5 years in, you learn who to stay away from. You learn what officers to stay away from.
Wow.
And so this time frame was very critical for me understanding the environment and the culture in which I was put into. It had, my innocence was secondary to my survival.
Right.
So
That's a long period of time to have this unknown and not feel set. I mean, that's a long time.
A long time. But when you're in a place where there's no clocks, time is nothing. You have no watches, no clocks in prison. And so time is like something, time is like hope. It's something that you only say. Right? And for me, the trial over, then my direct appeal gets denied. And so that, I'm like, oh. But God is interesting because I leave Gurney unit and I'm assigned to Cofield. So now Cofield is my ID unit, or the unit that I would do my time on.
Okay.
Cofield is one of the biggest prisons in Texas, largest prisons in Texas. It houses over 5,000 men on this one unit. I remember getting off the chain bus and walking up to this 4-story all brick building and glass, no central heating, no air conditioning. I remember them opening up this big iron door, and the minute the door closed, you knew that freedom was on the other side of the door because the sounds changed, the smells changed. And I'm escorted to the barbershop, walking down this dark hallway. And when I get to the barbershop, this is where you go to classification, and they'll give you your job and they'll assign you to the cell that you'll be staying in. I get to the barbershop, and this gentleman is cutting hair in the barbershop. Tall guy, bright guy, had a box, something similar to yours.
Maybe I'm just not as fair skinned.
Yeah. So he's cutting hair, and it's the common conversation because you're coming off the chain, coming to the unit. And I say, hey, where you been? I'm getting my hair cut by the guy. And I tell him, I said, man, I'm from Dallas, man. I said, man, they convicted me of a crime that I have no knowledge of. And this is 1997.
Okay.
And the guy finishes cutting my hair. He's asking questions, and I'm too green to know what to say and what not to say, because at the end of the day, I'm trying to learn my environment, but I'm also innocent. I need to learn direction. I need guidance. I need help, because I feel like I'm the only innocent person in prison.
Yeah.
The guy finished cutting my hair, and he wrote down on a piece of paper, 221 Witherspoon, Princeton, New Jersey. And this guy's name is Benjamin Spencer. Benjamin Spencer told me, he said, if you're really innocent, he said, man, I'm innocent as well. He said, man, I've been here 10 years, and said, these people right here, it sounds like you got a non-DNA case. And say, these people right here are one of the only organizations that works on non-DNA cases. Fast forward, Benjamin Spencer was released in 2001. He did 33 years in prison for a crime that he did not commit. But I tell that story because that was my moment of hope. See, we think that hope is something that just jumps out at you. And when you're going through something, hope is something that you have to look for. Hope isn't something that's easily dropped in a person's lap. And so that opportunity to meet Ben the first day that I walked on this unit, and he's innocent, and he give me a resource, that was hope. Fast forward, Ben would encourage me. He said, man, your direct appeal is going to get denied. I'm like, what do you mean? He said the lower courts were very rarely overturned their own conviction. Now it's making sense. Now the system is making sense.
Now you're beginning to understand your environment.
I'm understanding the environment, the settings.
Yeah.
And he said, you need to get in college now. So I got enrolled in Trinity Valley Community College on Cofield unit. I got my associate's degree. And he said, now you need to get in the law library. He said, because when your direct appeal is denied, you are now the attorney. I'm 22 years old.
Wow.
I've never seen a law book in my life outside of Perry Mason watching it with my mama.
That was my mom's favorite show.
Oh,
too.
man, you go to my mom's house right now, he's still doing trials. But yeah, so Ben takes me to the law library, and he introduces me to this guy named Ricky Wyatt. Ricky Wyatt was a short black guy, had wild type hair all over his head. But Ricky was a writ writer. Meant he challenged law, he studied law, and he wrote writs
Got it.
on behalf of individuals incarcerated.
Okay.
Ricky was also innocent. Ricky Wyatt has been released. He did over 30 years in prison. What are the chances that the first guy I meet on Cofield is innocent? Then he connects me with Ricky Wyatt. Ricky Wyatt helps me file my own writ of habeas corpus 1107. I didn't know anything about Brady versus Maryland and Strickland versus Washington and all of these case sightings that are the undergirding of people's claims of actual innocence. But Ricky is telling me all of this stuff. And I didn't have my transcripts because they cost too much. And so Ricky was like, man, if you can't get your transcripts, have your people get the police reports. So I wrote my dad, and my dad, we filed a Freedom of Information Act with the Dallas Police Department. My dad went down there, paid $25 for the police reports and mailed them to me. It was really nothing inside those records right there, those records, for me to substantiate my claims of innocence. But I filed my writ anyway, sent it in 2001, 2002, 2003, denied.
This is the direct appeal?
This is my writ of habeas.
This is your writ of habeas.
Then got, so
Okay.
my direct appeal was denied about 2000.
Okay, so this is now the next phase.
The next phase, so you got the Anti-Terroristic Death Penalty Act. So basically it's a time frame from your appeal, your direct appeal getting denied, and you getting into the courts. So imagine you've never opened up a law book and you're in prison.
That's what you call the deck stacked against you.
Oh, man.
Without any question.
Without
and this
any
is
question.
This is Richard, this is your story, obviously. And like you say, there's at least two others, and there's many, 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 many others who are facing really an incredible uphill battle. And, I didn't say it when we started recording today, but that's the crux of this season. It's about setbacks.
Yeah.
It's about the valleys that we go through. Most listeners have never faced prison. Some maybe have or have family members who have. But everybody has valleys
Yes.
that they go through.
Yeah.
Yours is a very deep one, and one that's so incredible. Like you talked about hope and having to look for hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that makes so much sense, because what hope is there to be found when it looks like this system is not for me?
Right. Right.
So, okay, so you get the habeas process now,
Yes.
but there's a seed that's been planted that would come later at the age of 30.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
What happens?
Yeah, so a couple of things happen. So I'm now growing up in prison as a young man, taking in the culture of incarceration. So one of the things, after I worked my way out of the fields, you got to work your way out of the fields, prove to the boss that you're a good worker. Then you get an opportunity to work in the building.
Right.
So very interesting culture. By the time I made it to the building, I get a chance to work around a lot of free world people. In prison, you have the guards. They are there to provide security. Security is the top of mind of the Texas Department of Corrections or in prison. But then you also have the free world people that come and do classification, mail, infirmary. I worked in the infirmary and I worked in the mail room. And if you ever meet a person that's been incarcerated and they are not able to articulate their thoughts, what they want to do, 9 times out of 10, they were not exposed to free world people. They stayed on the dorms. They stayed around security, where the conversations were very limited
Oh, wow.
to what was in front of them, or limited to the person next to them that had possibly been locked up just as long as them.
Right.
I'm working around free world people, and they're talking to me about free world things. And so I'm able to escape prison mentally, even though I'm incarcerated physically. I'm able to look at a woman that was a nurse in her eyes because I had to work for her, versus on the cell block, you better not look at a woman. You're going to catch a case. Totally different interactions. That's why when people get out and it's hard for them to interact with the opposite sex, because you're not supposed to do that in prison. You're not even supposed to really talk to officer guard women in prison if you're a man. But if you're working around them, you have to interact with them. So being able to interact with them was a part of my job. So I remember I get a job working in the infirmary. I had just turned 30, man, been locked up 11 years, been doing my push-ups and my weights and all of that type of stuff. So when I'm in the infirmary, I'm an SSI, which is a support service inmate, which basically I picked up trash. It sounds good till you really open it up and see what I'm doing. But anyway, it was a good job, and I remember the nurses would come in and they would say, "Good morning, Mr. Miles." Number one, this is the first place where I was Mr. Miles, or I was Miles. And my response was, all right. I kid you not. So envision me up there. I got this broom, it's a push broom, and they say, "Good morning." All right. Very military-ish. And so this went on for a couple of days. And I don't know if the nurses, they got uncomfortable with me or what. And so they asked me, they say, "Mr. Miles, when we come in, we always say good morning." I say, "What does all right mean?" And I thought, and I didn't have an answer, but I said, you know what? For the past 11 years, when I've woken up and I see my cellie, we don't say good morning. I look at my cellie and I say, "Cellie, you all right?" And my cellie response is, "I'm all right. I'm all right." Because in prison, it's like it's not a good morning. And so she challenged me. And so that's what happens when you're thinking about true rehabilitation, challenging the mindset of the individual while they're incarcerated, to renew their mindset. She pulled my coattail because my language was the language of the culture. I was becoming, what is the word, institutionalized, even though I was innocent. Something that I never wanted to do, become the person of where I was at. And so at that moment, I'm like looking back at my life. Now I'm 30. I'm like, man, you wrongfully incarcerated. Your family members have died. What good is there about your life? And every emotion, taking my own life, because you feel as if you've went from a value to being a negative asset. You went from being a person in the community to a commodity in the institution. And I would wrestle in my thoughts. Well, man, your mom and dad know you're innocent. They're coming down here every month, spending money to come see you, putting money on your books. If you can end it all now, and that'll save them money, you're innocent. All of these dark thoughts crept in. But working in the infirmary around these free world people, and then this one lady challenges my language, I went back to the cell that night. And because I'm working around free world people, I'm now practicing 2 words, good morning. And I'm looking in this stained glass mirror And I'm, good morning. No, that's too hard. No. Good morning. No, that's too soft. So some type of way I figured out the right way to say good morning. And I go back to work the next day and the nurses come in and I was ready. Had my broom and everything. Good morning, Mr. Miles. Good morning. However it came out. And I remember it seemed like as I said it, the true meaning of good morning hit me.
Wow.
And the true meaning of good morning is it doesn't matter what your day looked like. God still created a good morning. The birds came out. The wind is blowing. It's, in Genesis 1 and 2, he said, and it was good. So he hadn't changed, even though my situations had changed. Mm-hmm. And that allowed me to really begin to be more appreciative and to understand when you say good morning, it's more of an acknowledgement to God of creating a good morning than it is a greeting to someone else.
I could take what you just said and we could unpack and I could run like 12 seasons.
Right.
There's so much in what you just said that's applicable for everyone, whether you work in an office environment, you're incarcerated, you're in an infirmary, you're a nurse, what have you. I guess it's a little bit of my pet peeve that, people would just flippantly say things like, hey, how you doing? Good morning.
Right.
And I think you're opening up maybe the minds of some people to understand that words mean something.
True.
And perspective means something.
True.
And what you're describing, Richard, is that your mindset, like you said, go from all right,
right,
to good morning does something different, even for your own psyche.
Yes.
And then if it does something for your own psyche, imagine what it does for the people that you're interacting with.
Yes. It shifts the atmosphere. It shifts it. I remember going to visitation and my mom very early on, she was asking me, she say, what's going on? I said, man, I'm getting tired. This was around about the times of the briefs getting denied and all of that. And she said, Richard, when you're in your cell, and you look out the window, what do you see? I say, well, I'm over here by the rec yard. I see the basketball courts, and I see the guys, I see the guard towers and the fields that we work in and the barbed wire. And my mom tells me, she said, next time you do that, instead of looking straight, look up. And as cliche and corny as that sounded, in visitation, I think that I was grasping for anything to maintain stability mentally, physically, and emotionally. So I got back to the cell, and later on that day, I found myself looking out the same cell, the same bars, the same window, but looking at something differently. And interestingly, I'm in the same place, the same cell, looking out the same window, but my peripheral, my perspective is upward. So I don't see
the guards,
the
fields.
I see the potential beyond the guards, the fields. And so much of what you're saying, I think that when people talk to individuals that are coming out of a prison, and it doesn't matter, it could be a financial relationship, it could be a marriage. Prison is more than a physical place of incarceration. But when we're able to share the tools in which we relied on to get us out of a prison, those tools are applicable to any prison.
Yeah. All right. So at some point, maybe it's 2009, you get word of this organization.
2007.
2007.
Yes, 2007.
Oh, yeah, 2007.
Yes.
You get word that somebody might be interested in looking at your case.
Yeah, I had wrote them. So from 1997, from Ben Spencer. Yes. Yeah.
Man.
My first letter was 1997. And they was interested in my case because I had a case manager that I would write consistently. And I wrote numerous organizations, numerous colleges. This wasn't the only place that I was writing, but this was the only place that wrote me consistently. And in 2007, I remember we were on lockdown, an institutional lockdown, and I'm in my cell with my cellie, and the mail lady comes, and she says, Miles. So I give them my TDC number, and they roll the door, and they push this huge box in the cell. And I jumped out my bunk, and I looked at it, and had 2 Richard Miles from Centurion, Princeton, New Jersey. And they had purchased my transcripts. Now, this is 13 years into my sentence. I had never read my transcripts, so they purchased my transcripts. The only thing I had was the police records that my dad had sent a couple of years prior. And so I seen the police records, I put them to the side, and I just sat there. And it probably took about 2 or 3 days to really digest it because I had about 4 or 5 volumes. I had a 6-day jury trial, 4 or 5 volumes, and I'm just really reading and reliving this, sitting in that cell, reading all my transcripts. And I finished reading them, and something said, now get the police reports. And when I got the police reports, one of the first things that I noticed was this was way more documents in the police reports that they sent than what my dad sent. So it was about 25 pages in the documents that my dad sent that I needed for my writ of habeas corpus. And when I opened up the documents from Centurion and began to look through them, I came across a document that months before I went to trial, someone called homicide and told them they had the wrong person for this crime. It was a young lady, and she gave the name of the individual that did the crime, who he was with, what type of gun he had, where it was at. This phone call was taken, and it was recorded, and it was in the police files, but it was never turned over to my attorney. Well, it was never introduced in trial. We don't know where the ball dropped. But what I do know is it was 3 documents in the police files that was never turned into trial, and all 3 documents were exculpatory, meaning they would have given more evidence to prove that I was actually innocent. And so what happens is the Brady versus Maryland, which is a groundbreaking case that provides the person incarcerated the right. It says the failure to disclose exculpatory evidence favorable to the defendant is a constitutional violation. The fact that it was records in the police files, whether the prosecutor knew about them or not, Dallas police and prosecutors are in the same vein. They have a duty to make sure all the evidence is there.
With the precedent being set by Brady.
Precedent's being set by Brady. Brady versus. So that's their responsibility. Their due diligence is to make sure, let's go back and check these police files. Because other evidence can be added during the time that the person is waiting on trial. And so if you, as a prosecutor, are only running with the initial investigation folder that you received 12 months ago, you don't know what information has came in before it's time to pick your jury.
And this is a good point. I mean, this is both first of all, this is very deeply personal for you. This is a legal situation, so the attorneys listening, I'm sure they're tuned in right now.
Right, yes.
But then there's also a business context here, because in business, decisions have to be made for profit and loss. And as those decisions are made, you want to get as much information, which is constantly changing. The market dynamics, customers, operating conditions. And it would just make sense that in a legal context, when you're dealing with life and death, that you would also want to make sure all that is brought forward.
Right, because at the end of the day, the outcome of a trial is supposed to be justice. That's what we have the system for. Now, I coin our system as a great criminal legal process. I don't say we have a criminal justice system.
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask you a question about the system, but I like the way you've entitled it, process.
It's a great criminal legal process.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always yield to justice, because even if a person is guilty and they get 40 years, the victim's family may feel like, we wanted life. It wasn't just. He only got 50 years.
That's so the problem is really the title of justice. How can you define justice?
How do you define justice?
Of course, you've seen the movie. Was it the guy Brian Stevenson?
Yeah, Just Mercy.
Just Mercy.
They say I look like Jamie Foxx.
By the way, for the listener, great movie to go see.
Yes, it is.
It will give you some exposure, just a glimpse into some of what we're talking about here today. All right, so I want to talk about two things as we get ready to kind of get to our closing. Is you talked about looking for hope.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know, what was it like once you got through those volumes of documents?
Mm-hmm.
Did the hope begin to rise again? I want to talk there first, and then I'm going to talk about the mindset that sustained you through such a long period of time. Let's first talk about getting through the volume of documents.
Yeah. Let's go back to the Shawshank Redemption, because those transcripts was my harmonica. If you go, we'll watch the movie. But when Andy got that harmonica, something that was tangible.
Yes.
See, hope is great, hope is good, but at some point, we being in the physical realm have to have something tangible to fuel that gas tank to get us to that next level. And so for me, when I got the transcripts and the police records,
yes,
and the letter from them, it ignited a space of hope within me that had not been fueled in that manner. Just hearing the words from Jim McCluskey, which would come a couple of months later when he would come visit me with my attorney, Cheryl Watley, the amazing Cheryl Watley over UNT Law, when they would come visit me, and him saying, "We believe in you."
Wow. That had to feel incredible.
It was a beautiful moment. And here's the thing that it challenged me to do. Because my judge was a white man. The prosecutor was a white man. My attorney was a white man. So here I am. I do have this opportunity to look at a particular group in a bad manner, but when now the people that's coming to help you look like the same people that sent you in there, then maybe I can't broadly paint everybody in this same fashion.
And that's just the way God will move, won't he?
That he will show everybody is not the same. You can't broad brush everybody.
You cannot. And if nothing else, I hope people hear that today as well.
Yes.
We come in with our own views about a people, about whatever.
Yes.
And then he shows you something else.
Yes.
On the other side.
Yes.
Okay. So now, it's late 27 or 2007. You would be released in 2009, but at the, let's say, in December, it's Christmas time, 2007. Did you believe it was coming, or were you still doubtful?
Oh, no, man. When I got them transcripts, I remember the police records is really what sealed the deal, because the transcripts was basically me reliving the experience.
Of the trial.
Yeah. The police records showed me constitutional issues that had happened. And keeping in mind, now I think I'm a halfway Perry Mason because I had to file my own writ of habeas corpus.
Right.
So I know what Brady is. I know what Strickland versus Washington and Herrera versus Collins. I've dissected those cases because I use them. And so when I'm looking at constitutional errors, I wrote Centurion back that night. And I'm like, man, I've read these police records and I've never seen this document right here that blatantly lists the person that did the shooting.
Wow.
And I sent that letter off, and Tim, I knew the next week they was gonna come get me, and I'm waiting. I get a letter back from Jim McCluskey, and they was telling me they was coming in January. And when Jim came, Jim told me something. Jim said, "We accept your case." He said, "Now, keep in mind, when we accept people's cases, it's a minimum of 5 to 10 more years before we're successful at getting you out.
Oh my God.
I immediately thought back about Ben Spencer. Ben Spencer had been incarcerated 10 years when we had first connected. He was still down there.
Wow.
So while, yes, this harmonica has been placed in my hands, it's still not the full revelation of the story.
Yeah.
Because now we got to learn how to play it.
Yes. 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 Okay. You eventually figure out how to play it.
Yes, eventually.
Eventually you figure out how to play it. Let's go ahead and move forward then
Yes.
to the moments up to release.
Yes.
It couldn't have been like it wasn't just the day before. There's some time.
Yes.
You know that you're going to be released.
Yeah, I left the county. I left prison, and they escorted me to Lou Steric, and I stayed in Lou Steric 2 weeks.
Oh.
So I'm in Lou Steric because this was during the time of District Attorney Craig Watkins. So he was the DA then, and he was out of town or something. So I stayed in the county jail for 2 weeks before I was actually released.
Okay.
And that was crazy because here I am now, and I'm looking out the windows, and I'm seeing this high school way over here, which was Townview. Townview wasn't there so I'm seeing the landscape.
Wow.
The landscape of Dallas has dramatically changed
Wow.
in 15 years.
Yeah.
The Pegasus that used to fly downtown, they was bringing me into Dallas. I'm looking for Pegasus to find my landmarks because everybody coming out of prison is looking for that landmark. The Pegasus is gone. Me taking in the reality that life had changed so much. Not only life, the landscape of Dallas, technology. It was overwhelming. So much to the point that fear reignites.
Wow.
Because now, absent of knowledge, I'm absent of knowledge again. The 5-year tick, the 5-year embracing. And I remember being in the county jail and getting ready to go to trial, and all of the news reporters were coming, Mr. Steve Pickett, Mr. Sean Rabb. These men, they came around, and Mr. Sean Rabb was actually in trial when I got found guilty.
Wow.
And so he traced my whole story from guilty to exoneration.
Yeah, Sean Rabb, local news reporter here in Dallas, and has been doing it a long time.
Long time. But that time frame was really, it was filled with a lot of emotion. And so what I tell people is October 12th, 2009, I was released. February 15th, 2012, I was free. When we're looking at people coming out of a prison, you have the release and then you have the freedom. I was blessed to have both, to experience both. Not a lot of people will be able to come out of a prison and regain freedom, the ability to be who you really are without restraints. Being released was good because I walked back into society. I walked back into my mom's house. My stepfather had just passed 6 months prior. I walked back into the responsibility of being a man, even though I was at the age of 34, but mentally 19. Because I hadn't experienced life as a 34-year-old. I had experienced life as a 19-year-old.
Up to age 19.
Up to age 19.
Yeah, that's your life experience.
Right.
In the free world.
In the free world.
Yeah.
And so I'm released to experience, but I would gain my momentum when I was free.
Man, you making me well up over here. I'm about to get emotional just thinking about all this. Help the listener.
Mm-hmm.
They may be feeling shame for a decision they made or something they got blamed for. They may be feeling like they're facing an uphill climb. They don't see how they're going to get out of it. They're in their own mind, stuck. A major setback that they're facing. What would you say to encourage a person who's facing that moment right now, based upon your own lived experience?
You know, first thing that pops in my mind, and this has just resonated with me for a long time. At the end of creation, Scripture says, once again, I read Scripture, I'm a very scriptural person. It says, God made everything good, not perfect. I think that we as being human beings, we strive for something that God didn't even create. He created us in a good fashion, which means that gives leadway for mistakes. That gives leadway for imperfections. But we have to understand our mistakes and our imperfections is not a full definition of us as a person. And so while I might make mistakes, while I might be in a situation that's oppressive, this situation and this mistake isn't a full identity of me. It may be an action that I did or an action that someone think I've done, but this doesn't fully define me. And so I think that we have to give room to be good, but also give room to grow to this perfect state in which we are eventually will become too. I think the other thing is one of the realities that I learned in prison was we all have faith, but we very rarely have been put in a situation to use faith. Faith is like a debit card. When you swipe it, you're giving up something. You give up the responsibility to say that, man, my hands can and will change this situation that I'm in. When you swipe your faith, you're giving up. Man, I give up, but I give in. It's not giving up on the situation, but it's giving up on the understanding or the thought process that I have all the answers to change this situation that I'm in. No, I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to refer to the one that I believe has all the answers. And so that's what I would encourage anyone. First and foremost, we are created good, and we must give ourselves opportunity to grow in God's goodness and to be that perfect being that He wants us to be. We are not our worst mistake or the mistake that somebody else said. That's only a microcosm of us as a full individual. And I think finally understanding that just because you have faith, you may have never been in a situation to use it. And once you use it, it's going to feel different. Embrace the difference of really using faith and not just saying I have faith.
Active faith.
Active faith.
And then actively leveraging that resource.
Yes.
As opposed to just talking about something that exists. All right. You started this thing called Miles of Freedom.
Yes.
Why don't you give the listeners the acronym so they understand what is MILES? What does it stand for? What do you seek to do? Yeah,
thank you for that, because most people, when they hear Miles of Freedom and my last name, Miles, they try to connect it. And while it is a play of the last name, MILES is an acronym for motivating, inspiring, law-abiding, enthusiastic, and successful. It's really what we as an organization aspire everybody to be that we come in contact with. Whether you are an individual returning home from prison, whether you are a donor, a corporate body, whoever we cross paths with, we want you to be motivated, inspired, law-abiding, enthusiastic, and successful. And so Miles of Freedom was started upon my exoneration in 2012, fully exonerated, actual innocence, which was key because you have to be declared actual innocent to be compensated. There are some legal things going on right now where they are letting people out that are actually innocent, but they're declaring constitutional errors and violations, so they're not compensated. I was blessed to be compensated and seeded Miles of Freedom. And so to date, 14 years in, we've served over 3,000 men and women returning home from prison. We have a very robust case management piece at the Martin Luther King Jr. Center. We have about a 6% recidivism rate amongst the individuals that we work with. We partnered.
And people need to know compared to what?
Yes.
I understand, but I don't know that people understand. 6% is very low.
Very low compared to, let's say, the state of Texas, where you're looking at maybe 20, 21%.
Yep.
You know, so you have those metrics that we follow for our grant dollars, et cetera. We also have a food pantry that we partnered with North Texas Food Bank in 2019. Shout outs really to Leadership Dallas class of 2019. So that's the body that started the food pantry.
Okay.
Because every year they have to have a project, right? And so the class of that's why I'm biased for the class of 2019.
The best class ever.
The best class ever. But yeah, they started this pantry. We went to and got it done. And so to date, from 2019 to now, we've distributed well over 3 million pounds of food. Our food pantry is no income restriction, no zip code restriction. We have over 200 zip codes. Wow. Of individuals in our system. We also have a lawn service, and so we were very on the cusp of social enterprise in 2013, starting cutting grass in South Dallas, got our first contract with Minyards, then Park South YMCA, and now we work with Habitat for Humanities, 4 Oak Cliff, quite a few residences, et cetera. And so I tell people that had I went to prison and experience rehabilitation, then my only point of advocacy would be wrongful imprisonment. Mm. But because I went to prison as an innocent person and I experienced a culture of incarceration where you see the gaps, and if you're blessed to come out that situation and have resources, who am I to leave the people that I call friends without a resource?
Yeah.
I grew up with them, from 21 to 34. We ate together and we cried together, we prayed together. And yes, this person may have been guilty for whatever they did, but if we understand that our prison system, and it's really no fault on the system its own, because the system was created to incarcerate, not rehabilitate.
That's right.
The rehabilitation comes from the people that say, I'll go in and help. And if nobody is saying, I'll go in and help, then we render the individuals that are incarcerated in prison just a life of incarceration and no rehabilitation. And so my lived experience and the opportunity to start this Miles of Freedom was a no-brainer for me, and it's a constant space of healing for me when I'm able to meet people like you and talk about it, because I'm always doors are always opening, because when you go through something traumatic, you really don't know how many doors you had to shut to make it through. And the only way that you will become your full self is if you have an opportunity to go to those doors and open them and clean them out and put things in there that's positive.
Yeah.
Not only for you, but for others.
Richard, your journey is incredible to me. I just admire so much the resilience that it must have taken to keep fighting over and over and over, all the letters, all the no's, the denials, and then to use, like you say, that experience to help other people
Yes.
on this side.
Yeah.
You really are doing, and the entire organization is doing great work.
Thank you.
I would encourage a listener to join me in making a financial contribution, as I did this morning.
Yes. Thank you.
To Miles of Freedom.
Miss Eleanor sent me a text. She's our fundraising coordinator. And she said, do you know Tim? and I was just moving. I said, no. And then when I got here, and I sent her a text back, and she said, I sent him an email and said, how did he learn about it? But thank you for that. Thank you for that.
If people want to help support, whether it's financial, how else can they support Miles of Freedom?
That's a great question. So first thing, the easiest thing, and people, count this out, man, share the information out. Go to our Facebook page, like us, share it out, tell somebody else about it, because we understand resources are getting a lot more tighter than they used to. So that's the first thing. You can share it out. The second thing is we're always open to volunteers. And so the food pantry is a place where we engage volunteerism, whether you're a corporate organization that want to come in, or whether you're an individual that just want to come out. You feel free to reach out to us. Our website is www.milesoffreedom.org. Our Facebook page is Miles of Freedom. We're on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. I think, and the final thing is the financial support. And so while we have some marvelous relationships with community foundations, Texas, United Way, Hoblitzel Foundation, there's a lot of philanthropic arms that we have been blessed to be embraced by. The individual donors is really what keeps us going. The person that's sitting in the couch right now drinking their coffee and saying, you know what, I want to support. We know that it's the individual donors that really keep us going. And so please feel free to support. You can click the donate button and send an email, reach out to us. We will reach out. Speaking events, I'm always open to come out and talk, about about Miles of Freedom and the story and the work, because, my story is my story, but man, we have some amazing people working for Miles of Freedom, and they just really give me a platform to talk.
Yeah. Well, Richard, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed it. I hope the listeners have enjoyed it as much as I have. I appreciate your vulnerability and your openness, and we'll be talking soon.
Sounds good. Appreciate you.
Thank you for listening. If you got value from this podcast, don't keep it a secret. Subscribe, leave a rating or a review, and share it with someone you know. Until next time, remember, our world is starving for bona fide leaders. Take your leadership to the next level by applying one thing you heard today.